Good morning, guys. My name is Mr. Freese. Mr. Baker's asked me this morning to give a presentation to you guys on fair use in the classroom, and just kind of generalize what we're talking about with fair use, give some examples what fair use is, explain to you guys what the fair use doctrine is, and also explain to you the exceptions that are out there for educators so that violations are not occurring. Now, do they occur on a regular? Yes. Can they be prevented? Absolutely. So what we just want to do is give you guys some girth to what we're talking about here, some fallback with some questions that you might have and some feedback that we've put together that we feel can help you move forward a little bit here and understand a little bit better about fair use and the right way to use it in the classroom. So we're just going to move forward here through a presentation that I've put together. And the first thing we're going to talk about is the fair use doctrine. Now, for any of you that haven't heard of this, the fair use doctrine is a legal doctrine that basically allows limited usage of copyrighted materials without seeking permission. Now, the doctrine has been put in place so that there are ways that we can use works by other people, but there's factors that are having to be taken into place to allow us to do that without violating copyright. The factors are four factors, and the first one is purpose and character. The purpose and character is to basically what they're looking for is to justify how what you're doing is advancing or is adding content to what it is that you took from the first place. So they're going to need to see how can you justify that what you used that for advanced your students. I can't tell you exactly how that's going to be brought in question, but you need to know, you need to be able to say that you used this because it advanced your science project, and so you found this material online while doing a solar system project, and you took that material because you felt like the information you found on Mars was going to better and advance your students' study on the Mars 2030 project. Okay, so making sure that you can advance what it is that you took from. Okay, the nature of the work. Mainly what we're looking at here in the nature of it is going to be the content of what it is that you took from it. Doesn't necessarily matter if it was fact or fiction. Doesn't necessarily matter if it was. It's looking into how you use the information, what you took it from, and finding out if that rightfully belongs in the public domain. Okay, so are your ideas, it's not about ideas, and it's not about, it's only, according to Wikipedia, it's only your particular expression or fixation of the merits of, or fixation merits such protection. Okay, so, but it says on the other hand, the social usefulness of freely available information can weigh against the appropriateness of copyright for certain fixations. So basically what we're looking at here is does it depend on the quality, or is it just a matter of certain aspects of the work that you took? So is it relevant to what you took from, is what you took from relevant to what you're using? Okay, so are you doing a paper? Are your students did you give your students an essay topic and they did a paper over some whatever their topic is? Is the material that they took verbatim from an unknown source, and is it relevant to what they're doing? Okay, I know I went kind of a roundabout way with that. It's the nature of it is kind of complex, and so this can be a tricky one. You're going to hear me say a couple different times throughout the presentation. Okay, when in question, you're probably in violation. All right, so this is a good key to pass on to your students is that very phrase. Okay, if we're questioning what we're doing, most likely we're probably in violation. All right, which moves us into amount and substantiality. Okay, so we can use certain amounts. All right, but is it too much? Does 300 words get the job done and we used 1,000 words? All right, did our students take from an excerpt one paragraph when they could have used one sentence? Okay, so we want to challenge our students to, and you as educators, want to challenge each other to not be using an abundance of that material, especially without permission and especially without being cited correctly. All right. Again, this kind of is the opposite of what we just talked about in terms of if it's too much, it's probably in violation. With this specific factor, if the less you use in relation to the whole content of what you're doing, the less likely you are violating fair use. Okay. The last one is a little bit more in depth when it comes to the court system and legality purposes. When we're really getting serious, if we're really in violation, they're going to talk about the effect upon work's value. And basically verbatim from Wikipedia, it's basically saying that whether such uses in general or widespread could harm the potential market of the original, the court's investigating all of that. Okay, they want proof that rests on the copyright owner, who must demonstrate the impact that the infringement had on the use of the work. Okay, so how much of an impact does it have? All right, does it take away from the value? Did it increase the value of the original work? What did you do to the value of the work in the commercial use of it? As far as educators go, right, so we have to be able to know these rules. We have to be able to inform and abide by the copyright laws. You no longer have to have the copyright logo, right, the C with the circle around it. There's no longer a requirement for that. So just because a source doesn't have a copyright on it any longer does not mean that it's not under a copyright law. Okay, so again, there are sources out there and websites out there that can help us to understand and know what it is that has licenses or needs a license. And one in particular is called Creative Commons, and it's a website that has been developed for this. So it allows us to to request permission and licenses for specific work. So you can go see if what you're doing needs permission. And if you do need permission, you can request that through these websites. So as an educator, it's important to know where resources lie. As I know, none of us are trying to violate these purposes, or none of us are trying to violate these sources and material. A lot of the times we're just not educated in it. And so it's obviously very important to grow as an educator and know what the copyright laws are, especially those factors that are important in the fair use doctrine, because we want our students to understand and know. And so it's really important. I think it'd be great for everybody at the beginning of their semesters to put together a plagiarism video to really show in detail what we're talking about. Violations of this is happening daily and we don't even realize it. Okay, so as an educator, it's really important to understand and know the value of what we do and how we can make that better. So now, although there are a lot of exceptions to what we can do and need permission on, there are definitely exceptions for teachers as to how many pages we can use and what we can take that page from. Okay, so there's also 4 factors for teachers' exceptions. Okay, and these exceptions are in place so that we understand how much we can use as a teacher. Okay. Oftentimes we're always taking stuff from other people, right? And using another handout from another teacher, and there's no second thought given. Okay, but again, we need to know what we're using and if it's correct, and we want to make sure that everything we're doing is in fair use. Okay, so teachers can create one single copy of copyrighted works for classroom preparation. Okay, now this can come from a number of sources. All right, this can come from a book, an article from a newspaper, a short story, a short essay, a short poem, a chart, a graph, okay, a diagram, a cartoon, picture from a book, a newspaper, okay, or just a periodical. Okay, so there's an awful lot out there that teachers can create one single copy of. Okay, and that's an awful lot of resources that you can gain those from. All right, but what if I need more than one? Okay, which is a question we get. Now, what if one isn't enough? I need 6 pages. Okay, well, that number 2 comes into number 2, 3, and 4 are where we come into play with these. Okay, so we can make multiple copies of specific copyrighted works as long as the content meets specific tests of brevity, spontaneity, and cumulative effect. Okay, now what is brevity? Well, brevity is briefness. Okay, much and few. It kind of relates back to the substantiality and the amount. All right, so did you use 5 pages and took it out of 20? Right, so was there 28 pages in full from the context you took it from, but you were able to shorten it down to 5 pages and you're able to use it for those 5 pages? Okay. Spontaneity is on the fly, right? It's spontaneous. So I was last second. My computer Word document went haywire on me, and I needed to use something quick. So I jumped on the internet and pulled up a website and projected it onto my screen. Okay, was that spontaneous? Right? Did I have time to ask for permission? Did I have time to look out and go see if I was violating laws? No. Okay, and I used, again, was the substantiality feasible? Was it doable? Was it okay to use what I used, or did I get a little bit too far out there? Okay, and then the cumulative effect. What we're really just talking about there is increasing to additional parts. Okay, did I increase what I was presenting? Okay, did I increase it based off of what I took from? Right, so you can kind of see how the teacher's exceptions kind of meet in line with the 4 factors from the fair use doctrine. Okay, and they're just really important to know the differences in what we can use as teachers and educators, right, and how those exceptions are lining up with the factors of the fair use doctrine. Okay, because every time it's going to come back to making sure that your butt is covered on what you were supposed to do and know whether or not those were okay for the classroom. Okay, so again, you've heard me say it a couple different times through the presentation this morning, guys, that when you're really in question about violation of copyright laws, okay, and is it too much, is it too little? It's kind of a simple rule of thumb when it comes to this. All right, if the less material you're using from a large content, the more likely you are to be in fair use, right? The more you're using and the more you're questioning it and the more you're having to research and find out, is this correct, is this not, you're probably in violation in some sense. Okay, now again, you need to understand that there's ways to cite things and source things and make sure your butt is covered, but if you have those things under control, just because you're in question, doesn't mean you're in violation in whole, because if you know how to cite correctly and give correct citation and correct credit where it's due, then you're not in violation, okay, of copyright laws. So for anybody that's really struggling with some of this, and I know this was an awful lot, guys, in a little bit of time, and I'm sure you have plenty of questions, and I'm going to hang out here with you guys for the next 5, 10, 15 minutes and hopefully get some of these questions answered. I don't have all the answers for you, but I do know when it comes down to it, when you're really looking at the nuts and bolts, the 4 factors of the fair use doctrine are very critical to understanding if you're in violation or if your students are in violation, and then the roles as a teacher, the exceptions that you can exhibit to make sure that you're covered and knowing what you're presenting is covered or not. And so, again, I appreciate your time this morning, and I thank you for allowing me to come in here and talk about something that's can be extremely boring and not very entertaining, but again, it's very extremely important, and we need to make sure our students and us as teachers are doing what's necessary to make sure we're under the fair use doctrine and abiding by the law. So thank you very much for your time today, and any questions you have, I'm happy to answer them.